Now, there is a reason why this Ultra Class combination is known in the fan community as a clusterfuck Megazord. But don't worry, I'll be here with you to help out every step of the way. The instructions are actually a bit of a help in one way, aside from the fact that they're instructions. And that is that they recommend starting the transformation with Daikia Shinken-Oh and the Ikatenku Buster already assembled, rather than breaking it down into the individual origami or simply having Daikia-Oh and Shinken-Oh separated. And they're absolutely right. It is actually easier to start out with Daikia Shinken-Oh and Ikatenku Buster already assembled. So that's a bit of a help right there. And that's where I'll be starting with my instructions as well. To start off, with all three superclass combinations, you're just going to start removing a bunch of pieces. Actually, it's a little easier to work with things if you just take all the pieces off that you need first. And then worry about reassembling things afterwards. And then a little more additional crap, we're going to pull this forward one notch and pull these all the way down. It feels like you're removing everything from the Ikatenku Buster, but trust me, you're not. And because it's part of the transformation, go ahead, put that together, fold that down. Do not ever, ever, ever hang on to the Ikatenku Buster by just the Ika origami, okay? Because it's just pegged in there, okay? You want to hang on to the body of the Tora origami, okay? Pull that off. Take all four of these off. And we're also going to take the tail off. Everything that can be taken off with the DX Mogyudai-Oh is taken off when it comes to the Ultra Class combination, including these down here, and even a piece you were not aware could come off. And while I'm in the area, I'll just complete the transformation. Careful, watch your fingers. There's another panel. Careful, watch your fingers. Back there, fold that all the way down. And you're all set with the Mogyudai-Oh. Except I just lied when I said that. Let the part swapping commence! Gonna plug the Kajiki tail back in here, just as you did with the Daitenku. And then for some strange reason, they felt it necessary to put the thingy right there. Still can't figure out if that's a halo or if it's just supposed to be some sort of a fancy crown. Anyways, yeah, that goes right back there. And that's all you do with this. Basically what happens with the Mogyudai-Oh is it gets covered in a bunch of pieces, even though the Mogyudai-Oh itself contributes very few pieces to the overall Ultra Class combination. Regardless, take this, fold that up, and we're going to stick it somewhere really obscure once more. People at Plex must have something against the Tora Origami's head because they've hidden it on the backside or bottom or whatever it is of every single combination. Unless it's used as a helmet, it always gets placed somewhere out of the way. I don't get that. Something else I don't get, an equally undignified position. Shinken-Oh's helmet's going to go right there. There isn't even... That panel that covers up the chest doesn't even cover this up. It's just there. Next we're going to be taking this, which you already had to fold together, and we're just going to snap it there. It does not lock down here, it only locks up here. Next we'll take the Ebi Origami's claws, attach them to the shoulder positions, making certain that the gold side is facing forward. And finally we're going to take the Kame Origami and we're going to stick it down here. Saru Origami gets similar treatment. And then we are going to take the Ikatenku Buster, paying attention to this, and here. And noticing these down here, we're going to plug it into here. Sorry about that. We're going to plug it into these three positions. This is the only place it snaps into because it doesn't actually snap into the position down here. The tail just rests on it, and that's it. So we're just going to take this, and let's see if I can give you a better angle. Heavy, really heavy. Plug that in. just like that. And make sure the tail is balanced properly. Again, it's not going to snap or lock into anything here. It just, all that this platform is here for is just to prevent it from wiggling side to side, and that's it. I mean, it's loose enough. Okay, so it's loose, it's going to be loose, nothing you can do about it. The only place it attaches is there just above my finger. And this is what I will call the completion of the Chariot mode. This is what I call it, Chariot mode. Some quick tidying up bits we need to take care of real quickly. For instance, that each arm of Mogyudai-Oh will get no less than 2 tiger drill bits attached to it, for a grand total of 4. You don't do anything else with these. How awesome would it be to have such an impressive warrior with no less than 4 rotating drill bits on his forearms? You know, that's just awesome. They're not missile launchers, they're drill bits with spikes on the end. I don't know about you guys, but I'm rather impressed by that. Oh, right, stupid me. 18 cannon barrels. How could I forget? Plug this thing in here. Why does this turn? And then we're going to plug this in here and turn this around. There's actually a good reason for that to turn, but why does this turn? It's not part of any... I'll get to it later. Now we get to go through the enjoyable process of getting these 2 behemoths together. See these imprinted patterns along the bottom of this new platform here? They are shaped just so that the Kame and Ryu origami will only fit into them. It takes a little bit of time, but don't worry, you've got time. If you've had the patience to collect this whole thing, you've got time to put that in and get everything nice and neat. And it won't wiggle about, don't worry about that. However, if you are worried about it rolling about, or wiggling about, fear not, they thought of that too. You unhook these things, plug it into the Shinken-Oh's shoulder joints. Whoa, I just lost something. What'd I lose? The shooting shelf is only so big, and the reason I'm straining is because I have to reach so far. Okay, continuing on. Take this, plug it in right there, just like that. Take 9. This is pissing me off now. 2 months, 9 takes, just on this final sequence. I'm either too loud or something else goes wrong. It's like, really? Come on. Take 9. And now for some final parts assembly. You may have noticed by now that the torso of the Daikia Shinken-Oh, a little on the loose side. I'll address that later. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and plug it into the kibble behind the Daikia Shinken-Oh's head. And you're going to plug the peg into the hole in the back of this thing. It will help out a little bit. Not much, but it will help. And again, I'll get to that later. Ugh. This thing gets heavier and heavier every time I move it. And you're going to want to... You might want to do these at an earlier stage than what I am now. But, yeah, you're going to be plugging the lobster swords back into the lobster legs. Fold these up. Please don't screw up take 9. Please. Please. Let this be the last time. I feel like I'm missing something. And there you have, at long last, the long-awaited, much anticipated, Zen Samurai Gattai Samurai HaOh! Something is missing. Oh, wait, I know. Okay, now the thing about parts formers and block formers is there isn't really a lot of transforming involved. The whole point of them is you take one piece from over here and you stick it somewhere else, and that's about it. So while you've seen all the pieces that are here, you haven't seen them in this particular arrangement. So I suppose I'm still obligated in some fashion to provide a wraparound of some kind. Now, given the fact how many times I've complained about the weight of this thing... Oh, don't shake it! We're gonna go freehand if the camera wants more. The only difference between standard Daikia-Oh and Samurai HaOh's helmet is these are actually tilted backwards one more notch, and you know, obviously the swords are not here, so helmet on that, or the crown on that thing is pretty unbelievable, if I do say so myself. Chest armor, not so much. By the way, I know I should be complaining about this later, but for Mogyudai-Oh, it's like this. For Samurai HaOh, it's like this. Now here's the problem I've got. Well, yeah, I mean, why does this turn? Why does this turn? They don't even do that in the show. Why do those turn? Maybe I should have saved that for the commentary. For some reason they chose to just, like, they couldn't find a good enough place for stick. I mean, they've got the Kyoryu Origami's tentacles, you know, extra long tentacles sit back there. You've got Shinken-Oh's helmet sitting right there. This thing on the back of Mogyudai-Oh's arm is, shoulder is, that is really, really annoying right there. You've got Shinken-Oh's helmet right there. You've got, I can't see what the camera's doing. You've got Kyoryu Origami's head back there. And then you've got the crown, you can see there, from the Daitenku's just sitting on the end there like that. You know, it almost would have been better if they'd taken that thing and stuck it over there, you know, to just kind of balance it out. But no, I mean, it's just there. You know, it serves no purpose other than just to stick somewhere. You know, actually, it would have been kind of interesting if they'd taken this and stuck it on the front of this. I'm just saying. Claws on top of claws. How often do you get that? Articulation is, well, that's all you get, because unless you want to turn it higher, in which case this tripod's getting in the way, in which case this thing starts turning. Maybe that's why it turns, so that you can move the arms about. Anyways, those arms are the only things you can move. Waist attachment point. Here's the Shishi Origami. And this thing, couldn't show it very well earlier. And this is always in view on Mogyudai-Oh. It just folds over and snaps right into the shoulder port. Actually, I'll leave that because I need two hands for the support. Some people do the Ebi Origami's claws like this. That is incorrect. They are supposed to be closed and like this. Now, in the show, sorry for the shaky cam. In the show, the Ebi claws, the Ebi Basami attack, it'll actually, the whole thing will lean forward and then the claws will bend over like this. Well, obviously this cannot do that, okay? Like, it barely even gets beyond the crown, so yeah, that's a problem. The other thing that people will do is they'll have the blue facing forward. You know, obviously you'd have to switch the claws, but they'll have the blue facing forward. Even though the screws are visible on the front, you're supposed to have it like that. I still wonder, even 2 years after I got it, if there's supposed to be some sort of hidden symbology with the thing there and the thing there. I mean, we never figured out what that was for. It's just kind of there. And by the way, there is not an equivalent over on the Kabuto origami. There's just some kind of just little lines right here, and that's about it. But otherwise, you know, there's no equivalent over on the Kabuto origami. So yeah, that's a bit of a problem. Well, maybe not a problem, but we've seen most of that. And again, the little platform here doesn't really hang on to anything. It's just kind of there to rest it. And really, it's only there just to cover up the door for that thing. Why is that there, by the way? I don't know. If you want to, you can unlatch this thing here and move the camera a bit. This thing here, and then you can twirl this thing about, and you can actually get the the hidden disk feature to turn. So technically you can do that, in this mode, but you know, just you can if you want to. It's an option. Legs get really close here, but they actually don't touch. So what am I pointing at? That's what I'm pointing at. Okay. And again, really close fit under there for the legs. The one thing, though, that everybody, and I mean everybody, is concerned with is why does the Saru and Kame are relegated from previously they were sitting here, and they were just sword holder things, okay? And that's all they did. Wow, I did it with one hand. But now they're hubcaps. Like, they're James Bond hubcaps. Why would they do that? And, you know, Kame over here as well. You know, why would they do that? I mean, you've got the main, let's see, one, I got to think here, 2, 3, 4. You've got all 4 of the guys' origami. I mean, let's be honest. 4 of the guys' main origami there. And then you've got the secondaries sitting back here, but then you've got the girls hanging out at quite literally the back, like the back lowermost position they could possibly go. Why would they do that, you know? Why not have them sit up here? You have them sit up here, or, yeah, I'm getting off topic. Sometimes it's up to you, but sometimes I just keep that up just because it just makes it that much more prominent. And you can actually see it from the back easier, but that's an option for you. And then finally, this thing here. Which, I mean, it looks kind of simple, but considering the fact that it's an energy aura blaster thingamajiggy, I suppose, you know, you just gotta kind of live with that. Anyways, yeah, little asymmetry, but no big deal. So, yeah, pretty crazy all around. Oh, that reminds me. Yeah. I wasn't going to do this, but I just changed my mind. By the way, you can put the Daishinken into either hand just like that. And so that is it for the wraparound of the Samurai HaOh. Now, both of the Mogyudai-Oh special actions are available in this mode. The first one is obviously that it can roll about freely just by, you know, you just roll it around by yourself. And you'll notice that when it rolls around, you see down here, the Saru and Kame origami spin around, which is a little strange. Now, just as a reminder, if you do not want the Samurai HaOh to roll about, make sure that this upper peg is pulled all the way out, okay? If you want it to be a motorized rolling feature, push it all the way in and you get this. That'll do. God, with the Ultrazord, I actually had to run after it. That thing is slow, my God. Wow, that took a lot longer than I thought it would. And here I thought when it was moving in the commercial, it was intentionally slower. It's like, no, it actually moves that slow. Wow, that sucks. However, as I mentioned a moment ago with the Mogyudai-Oh and its motorized spinning feature, you can recreate the same thing here for the Samurai HaOh's finishing attack by not pulling up on this trigger, but by pushing down. And of course, because the switch is multi-directional, if it's unplugged here, you can do this. Just make it spin the opposite direction. I mean, either way. I mean, if you push down, the whole thing will roll forward as this thing is spinning. But if you pull up on it, then this thing will actually spin in the opposite direction and it'll actually roll backwards. And right there, you now have the reason why it is that the Mogyudai-Oh is such a large toy. Because A, you had to get the heat-in disc blaster way up here above the ground, and B, you had to have the motorized rolling feature in it. And it had to be able to drive both features at the same time. So that, if you're wondering why, that is why it's so big, and why it's so heavy, and why it's so expensive. If you thought the transformation for Kyoryu Shinken-Oh was simple, well, you ain't seen nothing yet. You're going to take all 4 legs off, and that's it. Pull this up. Now you're going to want to fold that all the way up. All you're going to be working with for this mode is just the Kyoryu Maru. You're not even, I mean, you could use this, but you'll see why in a moment, why that doesn't work. And these things, the front legs only form the helmet of Kyoryu Shinken-Oh, which these can't be plugged in anywhere, so all you're working with right now is just this. In my review of the Kyoryu Origami, or rather the review for the Kyoryu Shinken-Oh, I mentioned that it was pretty clumsy of Bandai and Plex to try and incorporate a role-playing toy into a deluxe transforming set without having really thought the matter over much. I mentioned how the Kyoryu Origami, the toy, had felt like a kind of a last-minute throw together rather than something that had been properly integrated into the DX toy line, much as everything else here has. And here is how I'm going to prove my point. Okay, so we already know the arms can only lock to 45 degrees. Locks there, 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 all the way around, blah, 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 because it's using the Daikia-Oh's ratcheting shoulder joints, okay? Well, here's the problem. Here's the hole, and here's the tab up here. Even if I turn this vertically, it's about an inch away from the hole. I know the camera's kind of obscuring it, distorting a little. And officially, you're supposed to be able to tilt that upwards like that. The other problem, though, unfortunately, is if you try and bring the arm up to 90 degrees, well, eventually what ends up happening is you can see the bottom here floats about 1.5 inches above. And there is no possible way... sorry about that. There's no possible way that that shoulder joint will be able to hold this thing. Because, I mean, Shinken-Oh could barely hold this thing as it was. Actually, it couldn't hold on to it at all. That's why they provided the base. Okay, and by the way, this is kind of useless too. Some had said that maybe if you set it on the base upside down, because with Kyoryu Shinken-Oh, you set it into the hole like this, but that doesn't even lift it 1/4 inch off the ground. No more than 1/4 inch. That's not going to serve your purposes up there. You could turn it over like this, but it's still not going to be able to meet the hand as well as it should. So, this thing is just useless for your needs. So, you kind of have to fiddle with it in order to not getting it in there. It fits the peg fits just fine. It's just getting this thing to hang on to it that's the problem. And I have found that tilting the Kyoryu Origami, and I'm going to exaggerate right here, tilting the Kyoryu Maru to either side will allow friction in the pin, or the peg in the hole there will allow friction to keep the arm upright and override the ratcheting position of the shoulder. And so there you have the Shinzen Samurai Gattai Kyoryu Samurai HaOh! Oh, too soon? Okay, so this is where it gets weird in the video. Everything that you have seen up to this point was originally filmed and photographed in November 2011. This segment right here is being filmed in September 2018. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this video has taken 7 years to produce. I'm not going to get into it here, but suffice it to say there were multiple reasons why the Samurai HaOh took so long to produce. Some of it was carelessness, some of it was emotional drama that happened in real life, some of it was distraction, some of it was availability of time. It just kind of built up and built up and built up, and it got to the point where I couldn't do it. A couple of minutes ago, I went back and I looked at all the filed footage just to refresh my memory on what I'd done. There is no original 2011 commentary. There was none. Because basically what happened is I set it up and everything was ready to go, and I turned the camera on and I just kind of drew a blank. Or the words would not form properly, or I wouldn't know what to say or do. So I was tongue-tied at the time in November 2011. And it actually took 2 months to do both the Mogyudai-Oh and what you've seen up to this point. It took 2 months to do all of that. Now, the Mogyudai-Oh video was not difficult, but like, geez, Ava, come on, get your butt in gear. It was 7 years ago. What was the holdup? Well, it's a convoluted answer. I'm going to try to remember this as best as I can, seeing how it's been 7 years since this originally happened. I believe it was in either July or August of 2011. I had posted the text, picture, and video review for the DX Daikia-Oh. And as I do with all of my CDX video reviews, I was looking to see what the comments were on it. How were people responding to it? Were people discovering previous videos that I'd done? So I was browsing in and out of there. And one of the recommended videos that was not from CDX, it was not from me, was covering the Samurai HaOh. It was the Mogyudai-Oh and the Samurai HaOh. And just as a reminder, in 2011, I still was not happy with the Daikia-Oh and the Mogyudai. I did not like them. I had lots of red flags, and there was just stuff I didn't like about them. So why did I randomly click on this video? I don't know. I just did, just to see what somebody else was saying about it, just to see maybe they could persuade me to change my mind about it. And as I was watching the video, I had this very strange sensation come over me, and I don't quite know how to describe it. I kept looking at this thing that people kept going on and on about and saying, man, that thing is ugly, and it's a cluster Megazord. No, correction, it's a cluster Ultrazord. Because this is the final form of, this is everything. So this is a cluster Ultrazord. Let's be clear about that. Anyways, I couldn't get over all the things that people were saying about it, and plugging in parts that are going to be completely hidden, and plugging in parts down on the wheel hubs or whatever it is. It's just there was so much about it that I didn't like. Never mind the fact that I already had the Ika Tenku Buster, but I didn't have Daikia-Oh. Just I couldn't see myself spending the money to complete this thing. It was not worth it. But anyways, as I was watching this random YouTube review of Samurai HaOh, I don't know what it was, but there was something about looking at it from a different perspective. It was like my brain trying to organize, okay, what the is this thing? What is all that stuff back there? And it can't even walk. It has to roll around all over the place. So like, I was trying to look at it from one angle only, and I was hating on it. But in this particular video, in this particular moment, it occurred to me my perspective was wrong. I needed to look at it from a different angle. Not just physically, you know, like move the camera or something like that. That wasn't the issue. It was more about reanalyzing, what does this thing look like? If you look at it, this is a really bad angle. If you look at it from the side, and yes, even 10 years later, this is still damn heavy. It's still a brick. Well, it's not a brick. It's a wall of ABS and PVC. That's all that it is. And I couldn't get over that. And then on top of that, It had the Ika Tenku Buster on the back, which which even in 2018 I still don't like that thing, but I still have it for some strange reason. I just didn't like a lot of the things they did, and the Tora Origami's head sits down there, which makes no sense whatsoever, and there were so many things happening. Oops. No, that stays closed. I forgot to push that down. Screw it. That's how I store it, by the way, so that the spring isn't strained as much. Anyways, I couldn't get over what a wall of ABS and PVC and C-size batteries, or those D batteries, I don't remember. I couldn't get over it. I kept trying to get in the head of Bandai Plex Toei, which admittedly sometimes I completely miss the mark, fair enough. Because, you know, I'm a Westerner looking at a Japanese toy industry. I couldn't figure it out. But then, something occurred to me. Yes, it is a wall of plastic, but the way it transformed in the show, Daikia Shinken-Oh stands separately on top of this platform down here, and then you're left with all of this stuff back here. Well, oh no, I had to replace something back there. Well, if you look at it from that angle, which is pretty much what you see in the show, they don't show it from the side very often, because they only use this not even a handful of times in the show. If you look at it from this angle, you've got this massive crown right here. And then you've got this stuff down here that I couldn't understand why this stuff's hanging out down here. Now, granted, there's some stuff, I mean, Shinkenger is stooped in Japanese culture and custom. There is very little that is recognizable to Western audiences here. Okay, very, very little. Even the Daishinken, even that's not something that you would ever see in like a Western or the American Revolution or the American Civil War, anything like that. There's nothing here, aside from the fact that it's a super robot, that's easily recognizable to Western eyes. And I was viewing it from that perspective. So I suppose it took a leap of faith when I realized, you know, this isn't just a bunch of random up here. It's actually a giant crown. The definition of samurai HaOh, I don't know the exact translation, it's the greatest of samurai, which means there's a lot of intentional flash that's happening here. You've got drills you've got spiked, not just drill bits, but spiked drill bits hanging out on each arm in pairs. You've got, I don't know if these are artillery cannons or missile launchers. I think they're cannons here. And then you've got the claws back here. Was it the Ebi Basami? Something like that. You've got the Daikia-Oh's claws back here. And it's just a big mess of things. But when I realized that this was a crown and there's a lot of style happening here, that's when I realized, oh, this is not a single robot with a single torso and 2 legs and 2 arms. It is not that. What it is, according to my brain, is how can I describe it? Of course, because I'm a Westerner, I don't know the terminology. What this is to my eyes is some kind of a samurai general, a Japanese general, or an admiral, or whatever the terminology is over there, that is standing on what I'll call a chariot that's being pushed by spirit animals or gods or whatever, or something along those lines. When I kind of separated Daikia Shinken-Oh physically from the backpack, that was when I had my aha moment. That was when I was able to say, oh, okay, now it makes sense. Now I know what I'm looking at. My brain, all those gears finally locked into position and it started running quickly. Okay, now I understand the samurai HaOh. Now I get it. The things kind of lined up. Everything lined up the way it was supposed to. Okay, now I get it. When that epiphany happened, after I was done watching this video review, this random YouTube video, I went back and I reanalyzed the Daikia-Oh, and I realized, oh, it's not just some random samurai warrior, but it's like a fat Japanese lord who's in this glistening golden armor, and he's got his, a cooling fan that he's holding in one hand. He's got a fan that he's carrying around, or he's got, two swords that have lobster faces on them, which, okay, that's pretty interesting. And then he also has these giant lobster claws, so it's like he's like a king of some kind, or a lower lord of some kind underneath, or as part of the, what was it called, the shogunate, or whatever it is. So that was what I needed to get past my concerns regarding the Daikia-Oh. When I looked at it from that perspective, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then Daikai Shinken-Oh fell into place shortly after that. Oh, okay, it's just an upgraded version. Yeah, the Daikia-Oh wasn't quite the folding paper aspect that I really still enjoy about the Shinken-Oh, by the way. It wasn't quite that, but yes, there was some transformation, and the mold detail suggested that it was folding paper. If you look at one of these claws, it doesn't fold like paper. There's only two joints on it. 1, 2, and that's it. And then there's these rotating things here. So it doesn't function like folding paper, like the Ryu origami or the Shishi origami. It didn't transform in that fashion, so I couldn't get over that. But then when I realized, oh, it's kind of like Bandai Plex Toei kind of made molds of an origami. Somehow made molds of a paper sculpture, and then modified it into a toy. When I reached that point, Daikia-Oh became good in my book. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get Daikia-Oh. I'm convinced. That is worth it now. That fits. And it kind of fixes the problem that I had with the Ikatenku Buster and the origami and the Hiden discs. So that took care of that problem. Okay, I'm convinced. Yes, I want to get the DX Daikia-Oh. The Mogyudai-Oh took a little bit more convincing. It's still the oxen, which, okay, whatever, I don't care about that, and it's a brick, and literally the only thing that poses on the oxen mode is the mouth. That's it, and I'm really pissed off about that. The transformation, well, there is no transformation. The only transformation is opening up the face guard. That's it. Well, no, opening the face guard and folding down the artillery cannons, that's it. That's the only transformation across the whole damn thing. The rest of it is part swapping. So the Mogyudai-Oh by itself, to this day, still not worth it. But when I realized kind of the Japanese battle chariot thing, and then the kind of the Japanese emperor in the ultimate armor or whatever it was, when I reached that point, it's not that I like the Mogyudai-Oh by itself, but rather what it formed that I enjoyed. Yes, it is a $130, $120 brick. Absolutely it is, and I do not recommend it by itself. But when you put it together, when you put all, was it 9 origami? I think. When you put all of the origami together, then it's justifiable. I can't really point to any one thing on here and say, that's my favorite part, that's not. Having spinning drills on the forearms, that's always a fun thing to have around, so whatever there. The crown may not be that appealing to my Western eyes, but it's elaborate and flashy enough. Okay, I'll give it a pass. Fair enough. What I call the Chariot. Oh, this is still heavy. This has got to be what, 10, 12 pounds at this point? It is heavy. I've never measured it. Shame on me. The kind of massive chariot thing back here, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and I don't know if there is a precedence for it in feudal Japanese times. I don't know. That's just really the only way I could justify it, because otherwise, all that I'm getting here is Daikai Shinken-Oh with some slight upgrades attached to some random on the back. To be fair, there is a lot of random on the back here, so whatever. But when I viewed this as some kind of a chariot, some kind of a holy segue, if you will, except you're writing on the front of it instead of the back of it. When I looked at it in that perspective, this wasn't quite so bad. In August 2011, when I had this revelation and I started accepting the Samurai HaOh and the Daikia-Oh and the Mogyudai-Oh, when I finally accepted that, like, okay, I want to get this, I wrote an email to Joshua Bernard, who's the founder and owner of CollectionDX.com. And the reason I wrote to him is because I never assume that just because I have done lots of Super Sentai reviews or Transformers reviews or Power Ranger reviews for CDX that I'm necessarily always going to get first pick at it. So I wrote to him and I said, A, could I do the reviews? And B, to let him know that this was the moment in which one of his regular reviewers absolutely lost his mind. And I've got the email to prove it right here. And so I was writing to him, hey, can I review it? And ultimately he said yes. And as a matter of fact, over the course of the multiple emails, through the sponsorship that CollectionDX has, as many other websites do that review toys and YouTubers and stuff, they all have their own sponsorships and their links. Over the course of about a month and a half, Josh eventually helped me to get both Daikia-Oh and Mogyudai-Oh. As a matter of fact, small trivia, I actually got Mogyudai-Oh about a month before I got Daikia-Oh, but I held off on the reviews so that I could review them and release them in the proper sequence that they appear in the show and as they were originally released in 2009. I wish I'd been doing unboxings in 2011 like I do now, because I was basically kneeling next to my bed, which was directly behind the camera and you know, out of sight of the shooting shelf. I was kneeling and I was unboxing Daikia-Oh, and it was actually better than I had pictured it. And you know, after all the revelation that I'd had about it, I finally had it in my hands. I was like, oh wow, this actually is pretty darn cool. I like this. This Daikia-Oh is a winner. I'm glad I got it. But but as I was opening Mogyudai-Oh and pulling it out of this massive box, which is almost 3 feet long, I kept saying to myself, oh God, what have I got myself into? What have I done? What am I doing? This is ridiculous. What am I doing? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I was doing that the whole time. And then I read through all the instructions and I put the thing together and I just sat back on my heels, the thing's this monstrosity sitting on my bed. And I think it was nighttime, actually. I had, like, just one light on or something like that. And I was just kind of like, oh, my God, what have I gotten myself into? Oh, my God. Just, what have I done? Am I crazy? I just, you know, it was those kinds of responses. Like I said, I wish I was doing unboxings back then so I could have recorded my initial reactions and then put them on YouTube. But unfortunately, I didn't have that capacity at the time. And ultimately that disbelief spilled over when in November 2011, which was about a month and a half later when I finally put the whole thing together, and I was doing the pictures and doing up the text review and stuff like that, when it finally came to the point of doing the commentary at the end of the review, as I'm doing right now, by the way, when it got to that point, I knew why I had done the things I'd done, but I was still so, how can I say it, overwhelmed and still a little bit of confusion and a little uncertainty. Why did I go through all the effort to get this thing? It's such a monster, and it's so big, and for one of the few times in my life, I was tongue-tied. I would turn the camera on, it would be on for about a minute and a half, and I like, how do I say this? How do I express myself? What do I go through? How do I justify this thing? Because I was concerned, because To be fair, I was worried that the viewers on YouTube and the readers on CollectionDX, they might think I was a liar, or they might think I was betraying some kind of standard, or I was betraying them and I was betraying my own standards. And I kept going back and forth, and even in 2018, despite the fact that I've had this thing for 7 years, it is still it is too flashy. It is so overwhelming that even like right now, I'm having trouble describing it. As I said earlier, there is no one thing in particular that I really like that I could point to and say, yeah, that's really great. This is great. He's got nice bulky arms, and then he's got a holy chariot, or he's got a rolling throne of some kind. You know, he's got something like that. And that's kind of really the only way I could describe it. I don't love Samurai HaOh, but on the other hand, I don't hate it anymore. That's about the best I can do to describe how I feel about this whole situation. And it's also about the best that I can give you in a description of why it took so long for me to get to this point. And so with that extended and slightly off-topic commentary, what do I think about this whole thing? And are there things that I would have done differently? Oh yeah, there are things I would have done differently. First of all, this fan wouldn't have been down here. Secondly, you know, the Daikia-Oh could have been distributed to different locations. It is a cluster Ultrazord. I'm not going to make any bones about that. Some people have compared this thing to Engine-Oh G12. No. Engine-Oh G12 was a mess. This has enough style to it that, okay, it passes muster. I can live with it. I like how, let's see, I'm going to be careful here, this does become a bit unstable when you start unplugging things. I really like the, let's see, is this in view? Yes, it is. I like the giant cannon that shines through the giant crown. That's really amazing. The fact that they got two of these tied together, that's a really neat thing. I did like that. I like how the crown of the Daikai Shinken-Oh is kind of extended a bit by the claws from the Daikia-Oh. So that's a nice thing to have. I'm going to empty my hands here. This is a bit front heavy. You can't do it like that. And like I said, I still have issues to this day with the Ika Tenku Buster, and the thing on the back, well, I've never been a big fan of this thing. Not really. I've been kind of, it's like this close to being okay for me, and I just kind of drew my line in the sand, and I'm like, you know, I'm not going to heap praise on this thing. I kept it because it makes this massive thing, but really, it's okay. Why is the Kyoryu Origami's head just hiding down here? Why is the Dai Tenku's crown and the Tenku Shinken-Oh, why is the crown, why is this thing just kind of randomly hanging out up here? Why couldn't it have been placed, you know, back down here? I suppose there's enough room you could put it down here, whatever. As I mentioned with the Ika Tenku Buster and Tenku Shinken-Oh review that I did many years ago, I was very, very disappointed that not only did they sacrifice the transformation style of the actual origami, you know, folding paper, folding God, that whole pun that they set up very, very nicely with the Shinken-Oh, I was very disappointed that not only did they sacrifice that, but the heat-in disc, you know, you rotate this thing, and then the drill bits turn, and then the nose kind of flops over, and then the head on this spins around. That was neat. And then for the was it the Ika Tenku Buster, the cannon mode, the Ika disc does not turn, and the nose does not bounce up and down. By extension, I'm also disappointed that there was not some kind of a excuse me, some kind of a drive shaft that went through the Mogyudai-Oh's torso and plugged into the underside of the Kyoryu Origami, so that when this whole thing rolls forward not only are the hubcaps, which are really dumb, and I'll get to that in a moment, not only are the hubcaps turning, but also the, I don't remember the name of the cannon, this thing is turning, and just to tie all Hiden disc features in, you would have had a motor turning this thing, which would turn the drill bits, if they were still here, which would turn these two things, and would also turn this and get this thing to bounce up and down. That is probably the biggest missed opportunity across this entire Ultra Class cluster. It really is. And it is such a huge, huge missed opportunity. I have to wonder if at some point the reason why the Mogyudai-Oh was such a brick is because originally they were going to drive something to there. Now, there's no indication under here that there would have been, you know, a place for a drive shaft to be connected into place. There's no indication of that. But I have to wonder, just because of the way things are lined up here, and I suppose this would be my conspiracy theory if you want to think of it that way, there had to have been, at some point in pre-production for the Toyland, there had to be this idea that you would have had these four Hiden disc features all moving at the same time. And so that was a significant issue with me. I'm kind of surprised that the Ika Origami's tentacles, these two larger ones, because squid have two larger tentacles. I don't know what they're called. They're dominant ones, I guess. I don't know. I'm kind of surprised with the Ika Shinken-Oh. This just sits on, or actually it's this way. It sits like a backpack. It attaches to the back, and that's it. In this case, because it is part of a cluster Ultrazord, it just sits there like that, and it's done. Whoa, the sun came out. Yikes. And the what's it called? The Shinken-Oh's helmet just plopped there, just hanging out, just whatever. So there were, I mean, despite the fact that this is a cluster Ultrazord, cluster Ultrazord, I can appreciate what they did here, but I just feel like, yikes, I feel like the joint's going to break finally on me. I just feel like there was a lot of missed opportunity here, and that they were going for more flash than they were anything else. All right, I gotta, excuse me a second. I just feel like they were so wrapped up in the visual style of this thing that they missed a mechanical opportunity. Wow, that is a lot of dust right there. That's 7 years worth of dust. Yikes. That they missed a serious mechanical advantage in here. And, you know, it wouldn't... Maybe the motor wasn't strong enough. Maybe, you know, the complaint that there were two motors inside Mogyudai-Oh, maybe that second motor wasn't strong enough. And so they said, we can't do it. So we're going to have to change the Ikatenku Buster so that it no longer drives both the weight of this whole thing and a major mechanical gimmick on the back. Maybe they abandoned that because they couldn't, I mean, considering it's already $130, maybe they couldn't justify it. Maybe they couldn't get it to mechanically work. Aside from having the war fan sitting down here from Daikia-Oh and then having the Tenku Shinken-Oh's crown sitting on the back of the Kabuto Origami, I think the biggest thing that pretty much everybody complains about is when the sun is ruining your video capturing. I suppose that's my mistake for shooting during the day. Oh well. Perhaps the biggest thing that everybody, and I mean everybody on the internet complains about, is the decision with the hubcaps. These things are controlled by the female rangers. If you take these away, everything that you see here is controlled by males. Now, I'm not going to get into the huge kind of sort of sexist overtones that feudal Japan had, let alone that Shinkenger implied when the fact that one of the females was forced to resign her position of having possession of one of the accessory origami. I'm not going to do that, okay? But suffice it to say, it is an issue, and the fact that the females were not left in a prominent position or attached up here, attached to the arms, or they're delegated to literally the lowest position on the toy, or Ultrazord, whatever it is. To me, it's just not good. I mean, it is neat. It's funny. It's a joke. Kids are not going to understand the sexist overtones of the fact that the female mechas are sitting down here. They're so small. They're so insignificant sitting down there. It's like, okay, fine, where are we going to put? Let's put them down there. I think probably the worst thing that could have happened is you'd have stuck them back here. You could use them as like a bumper guard or something along those lines. That probably would have been worse. But kids will just view it as like James Bond, Aston Martin DB5 things that are coming out the side of the wheel wells. You know, that's probably how kids view it. That's probably what they were trying to go for. But at the same time, and no, I'm not necessarily reading more into it, and no, I am not sexist myself when I say this, it does kind of discolor the thing a bit. So that's one of the big things that everybody disagrees with. Everybody thinks that Bandai Plex Toei made a bad choice when they put the little hubcap pieces of down there. Nobody likes that. Beyond that, you can look at it with as much flash and stylistic choices as you want to, but that's kind of a thing that like nobody liked how that turned out. That's actually really the only, in my mind, kind of the only bad choice that they made. In terms of cluster Ultrazords, that's one of the worst decisions I've ever seen right there. And I should also point out, to this day, 7 years. 7 years later, I still don't know what the symbols are on the bottom of the Kyoryu Origami. They imply that there's some additional significance, but the thing is, it's on the Kyoryu Origami, but it's not on the underside. It's not equally on the underside of the Kabuto Origami. So I'm still trying to figure out what were Bandai and Plex thinking when they put that under there. I don't know. There's nothing to indicate it has any significant value here, and it's not being highlighted as a symbol like this or this up here, or even on the heat-end discs. It doesn't match anything else that you see here. So I'm still trying to figure out what that's for. And yes, it is still slightly awkward to get to the special effects down here and the one little speaker right here. So at least you can still kind of sort of see the light here. And I'll also say the Ika Daikia-Oh thing that I didn't like about having this thing here, it makes more sense when you have it on Samurai HaOh. What I'm trying to figure out on it though is, I can understand this turning just for a little bit of transformation flash. Like on the Mogyudai-Oh it's like this, and then on Samurai HaOh it's like this, because it's like king under the mountain or in front of a mountain. Okay, I get it, whatever. I can understand this turning, but even for Samurai HaOh, why does this turn? There was no reason for it to. And there's nothing else that plugs into that port on the Daikia-Oh. And by the way, it actually does lose quite a bit. When you take these pieces off Samurai HaOh, it does lose a bit of flash. But why didn't that turn? Anybody? I still don't, 7 years later, I still don't understand that. Oh God, I just remembered. I'm so glad I didn't stop recording. There is one thing I want to go over. With the DX Shinken-Oh, I've got the arm available right here. With the DX Shinken-Oh, you could not put the Daishinken all the way through because they had to preserve the badge mode. You couldn't have a big old hole running right to the middle of there. So that's why the Shinken-Oh, that's why the Daishinken couldn't go all the way through. So that kind of makes sense. Maybe they could have changed the symbol a little bit so that they could justify having that hole go all the way through. But so it's frustrating, but I can understand why they did it. So what I don't understand is for when they came up with their ultimate combined form, why doesn't the Daishinken go all the way through? Was it to make the sword look bigger than it actually is? Maybe. But here's the thing that pisses me off. If you look inside of there, there is the tiniest of slots, or I'm sorry, the tiniest of tabs sticking downwards in this direction, which means they intentionally blocked. And here's the pissy part about it. You could see all the way through it, and yet they took the energy and effort to stop it so that it can't go through any further than that. The only way that a collector or a very careful parent would be able to change that would be to disassemble the entirety of the forearm, disassemble this, and then sand down or scrape away or cut away that one little piece of shit tab that's not even a millimeter long on the inside of the fist there. And then you would be able to put the Daishinken all the way in. But I still don't understand why they made that choice. It just boggles my mind. I don't... Dogs barking, chickens clucking. I swear I don't live next to a farmer. Random private pilot in his personal biplane that he has to practice with it almost every single day. I'll be so glad when this guy finally loses his license. It's so annoying. He's been the bane of my reviewing existence, I assure you. Anyways, the Kyoryu Origami is a cute, funny thing, whatever. They tried to make both a role-play toy and a DX transforming robot out of the exact same thing. They've tried that a number of times in the past. This is one of the cases where I don't think they pulled it off very well. And it exposes that weakness and that flaw even further when you try to turn it into the Shinzen Samurai Gattai Kyoryu Samurai HaOh. Oh gosh, how does this work? I don't remember. There we go. The problem I've got is it doesn't hold it no matter what you do. I actually have to tilt the sword at just such an angle, which actually puts a strain on the joint up here, so I'm not going to keep it like this for very long, in order to push it up against here, and it slips out of the hand really easily up here. So it might have been able to work with Shinken-Oh, I'm sorry, Kyoryu Shinken-Oh, but as Kyoryu Samurai HaOh, unfortunately, I'm going to have to heap just a little bit of praise on the Magi Legend from 2005's Magi Ranger. It's unfortunate that unlike the Magi Legends Magi staff or whatever it is, what you can't do is place the, you can't place it into, lock the thing into the base and then have it roll about this way. I mean, even if the heat-in disc isn't spinning, the least they could have done was engineer it so it could roll back and forth like this. You know, that would have been acceptable, but no, this thing's just failed. You know, maybe if they made a completely original mecha, it wouldn't have been as much of an issue, but I want to be able to plug it into that foot thing and then roll the thing all over the place. That's what I want to do. But I can't even do that. Tilt this upwards, and like I can't hold it like this, you know, because it's not even attached, but I can't lift it up because it completely misses the mark. So what I'm forced to do is peg this in here and then put the shoulder joint under stress and hope that the friction inside of the fist is strong enough that it won't slip out. So I suppose that even though this happens in the show, the toy is not really meant to do it. You can do it, just you're going to put it under some stress. Actually, when I have this on display, the Kyoryu Origami is actually off to the side, so I don't even think about it. It makes for a really great visual in the show, don't get me wrong. But that being said, the toy, you kind of have to fudge around with it, and it's kind of, and you can see how loose that joint is right there. It does not like that at all. So once again, the Kyoryu Origami has proven what kind of a it was a neat idea in concept, but they could have chosen a different toy for it. Certainly not the oh, what's this called? What's it called? The Shinken-Maru. That's what this thing was called. If they wanted to make a role-play toy, that's fine, but did they have to use this particular one? So, yeah, I just set the Kyoryu Origami off to the side. It's an okay toy by itself, but both of the combinations it's involved in when it comes to deluxe transforming figures, that's where the flaw, that's where the weakness comes into play. I like it visually, just practically speaking, it doesn't work. Oh my god, is that it? I think I'm done. I think I did it. I think I finally finished the Samurai HaOh review. Woohoo! Hey, thank you so much for tuning into the channel. We really do appreciate it. What we also appreciate, getting comments. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Tell us if there's something you want us to review. You know, we do listen to that. Something else we listen to is complaints about whether or not AVA Unit 4A's videos run way too frickin' long. We do listen to this. And yes, I am well aware of the fact that I'm a bit long-winded when I come to these things, but I also believe in being thorough and providing a bit of flavor, of context to these reviews as well. So that's one of the reasons why they run so long. I do have standards to uphold. With that said, yes, my videos do run really, really long. So here's what's going to happen. Some new opportunities have presented themselves in previous years, and I'm going to be playing around with my format a little bit here. Just a little. It's not a huge change, but it is a change. I have some, shall we say, bonus content that's not specifically related to the item that I just reviewed here. So here's how this is going to work. When this video ends, go ahead and check the description below, and you will see a link that will take you to a different video that is also made by me. Exact same editing, exact same producing, exact same crappy camera. You know how that one goes. And all that it is bonus content that is not related to the very specific item that I've just finished reviewing here, okay? I've said my piece here on this particular item that I've reviewed, okay? But I've got some more stuff to say. And if you like listening to me talk more about Super Sentai or Transformers or Lego or whatever, go ahead and click on that link in the description below and it'll take you to the appropriate place. Once more, this is AV Unit 4A saying thank you for tuning in. That was really convoluted. Oh my god.